right. Thank you for joining us and welcome. We are out of executive session at 7:31. We're going to pick up our agenda with item D, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the pledge. All right. Well, this is special because this is our first special presentation with staff and students in 2 years. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. It is an absolute pleasure to have other people in the chambers that are happy with us. So we're very happy to have you with us and we appreciate it. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome up Riverview School to present on their sensory room presentation and video.
Oh my God!
Very nice to meet you
I
both.
turned out.
Be a long time. You know, I live for this. Okay, I'll step up to the mic. Is that good, Ricky? All right. So again, thank you for having us. We're here to talk about the sensory gyms, and some of our students and staff created a video to show you how we use the sensory gyms and rooms. My first year into being a principal, we decided that we're going to take a room to make it look solely for students, that they're going to go inside and it's going to look different, it's going to feel different, and they're going to know that that room was created for them and with their input. And so we started with a small sensory room and we had such success. And then when we were able to get a grant, we decided to make a bigger space, a space that we would take input from the students, from the staff, and really make a great space. So we found the mood lighting. We found a great company that put together a sensory gym that you'll get to see, and it's a bigger space. Then we had the second building, and students like Hayden came up and said to me, Mrs. Theoropoulos, when we have the second building, are we going to have a sensory room? And I was so honored that the fact that it came from students that they were interested and they know how to use it and they were asking for it. So of course, we added one to the Annex too. And throughout the day, we have students of all different ages coming to visit it, and we're very excited about it. So we're going to share you our video, and we're going to have some of our staff members and students talk about it. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce everyone. We have Caden Fasciana, who's in 4th grade, and you will see him starring in the video. Mr. McCabe, our new vice principal. Amanda Newchuk, who has been amazing in training all the staff, students, aides, and how to use the sensory room so it does what it's meant to do, help students get ready for learning. We have Kim Teschmacher, our 4th grade teacher, and Mr. Koshio, also a 4th grade teacher. And I will be remiss if I didn't say Mrs. Molina created and put the video together. So we are thankful for all her excellent sources. And when I was preparing this, I have to say that Amanda Newchuk played a big role in helping me find out from an OT perspective what type of things to include in the room. Kim Gallagher, who's not here today, also gave such great input. And I was happy to say when we worked also with Sky Sarnopoly, they did something similar at Lakeview. So it's great to see that both elementary schools are involved. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that. So without further ado, here's our video.
I'm Amanda Newchuk, occupational therapist at Riverview School. And I'm here in our beautiful sensory room, this wonderful addition to Riverview School for this school year. The sensory room and sensory gym is a space where all students at Riverview can come to help them get all the things that they occupational therapist at Riverview School. And I'm here in our beautiful sensory room, this wonderful addition to Riverview School for this school year. The sensory room and sensory gym is a space where all students at Riverview can come to help them get all the things that they need so they can be ready to learn and do their best in their classrooms. The sensory gym has many pieces of equipment that provide a multi-sensory experience for students to help reduce anxiety, affords them the ability to maintain a more regulated arousal levels throughout the school day. It improves attention and overall motivates students to do their best learning. Staff have been trained during this school year to most effectively use this space and help students learn how to use this space as well. Has been used to structure the ideas of how we can learn to get ready to learn and get in the green zone by using the activities and equipment in this space. The sensory gym is an excellent addition to our resources here at Riverview School. It helps us more effectively work towards our mission of educating the whole child and meeting all students' needs.
Here's the best.
The sensory gym has been a wonderful place for all the students in Riverview. However, the special needs kids have been loving it. It has not only been something for them to do good work in the classrooms, but they also come in here to try to get regulated and have nice times fun in here.
Welcome to the Riverview Annex sensory room. Come on in. First, we check what zone you're in. The red zone is if you're angry and you're frustrated, like on a math problem. The blue zone is you haven't eaten any food, you didn't get enough sleep last night, and you're like sad. The green zone is you're calm, but you're ready to work and you can follow it. You can follow directions easily. When you know what zone you're in, you walk in the sensory room and try to get back to the green. What helps me get in the green zone? For instance, go outside, and this helps me because it feels like a hug when you sit inside because it's not too big or not too small. Sometimes I use so you can see my own energy shot. One time I was really frustrated on a math test, so my teacher noticed and brought me here, and then I got back to the grade. The benefits I've seen in my students both emotionally and academically have been here. Happy to get to the green zone might help another student get too silly, but they're able to kind of regulate themselves in here to get themselves in a zone that helps them be ready to work into the classroom. And they're actually able to, after 2-3 minutes, up to 5 minutes maximum, able to get back into the room and produce even more work. So it ends up being an investment in their work in the long term as well.
Okay, so
I was going to say about the, so with our Student of the Month celebration each month as well, we bring the students, Mrs. Theodoropoulos and myself bring the students for Student of the Month to the sensory gym and read to them exactly why their teacher recommended them. And then we all get to experience it ourselves. Yes, I've jumped off that tower and made it. So, but it's a source of celebration as well. The first weeks of school, we brought the staff in there, took pictures and had them take photos. So it's really become part of our whole school community.
So as an occupational therapist and as a parent as well of a first grader and third grader at Riverview, I am absolutely delighted in this investment in all of our students. Sensory processing is the foundation for all learning. And to enable our students to use sensory input and all of the different equipment that we saw is really getting them prepared for their learning. And the benefits are endless, that in the emotional realm, the social aspect, and as well as the sensory processing piece. So I'm just not only delighted, but just proud that we are investing in our students in this way.
Hi, I'm Kim. I teach fourth grade at Riverview. I think one of the best parts of the sensory room is that when a child gets frustrated, if they're struggling on either, like Hayden said, a math problem, or if they're nervous about something at home, or they're just kind of feeling tired that day just because they are adjusting to a full day back in person learning, they're able to go to the sensory room and get what they need to feel successful. So as Kaden was saying, even 2 minutes in the sensory room, it's incredible. They go back into the classroom and they're able to produce more work. And even beyond that immediate benefit, I feel as though there's a long-term benefit of giving the power back to the students to say, when I feel upset or when I feel frustrated, it's okay. And I have the power to do something about it. And I think that that's not only something that helps them in fourth grade or fifth grade, it's really a life skill to say it's okay to feel emotions and I have the power to do something about it. So I feel so grateful that we have the sensory room both at Riverview and the Annex, and I can't wait to see how much more progress we can make with our students and continue to make an impact in that way.
Hi, I'm Mike Cochio, a fourth grade teacher also at Riverview, and it's been an incredible tool this year in our classroom to have the sensory room, so thank you. The best thing we've seen with it is how students can advocate for themselves. They will come up to me and go, Mr. Cochio, I'm in the blue or I'm in the red, I'm feeling like this. Can we go to the sensory room? We go for 2 minutes, you can see them calm down or get more energy if they need it using skills that they know how to do. They know, Mr. Cochio, we're going on the swing. Can we do this game? 2 minutes, we go back to class, they do their best learning. You see them focused again. It's just been a truly tremendous tool and we're thankful to have it, so thank you.
Thank you, all of us. And thank you, Kaden, for being in the video and being so brave to be here today. And we have another student as well. So thank you for having us. And that's our information about the sensory rooms. Thank you.
I just wanted to say a couple things. So first thing is we have one at Lakeview as well. Another small one like the one at the Annex. And when we were putting this all together and I was looking at it, I walked in there and I saw it. I was like, we got to get the board over here to see this thing. But it was really like right in the middle of all the COVID stuff. So I went over it and asked Tina if she could get some kind of video going. I thought it would be a cool idea. So hopefully we could do a road show. Maybe next year we can, later in the school year or early next year, we'll do a little road show and check it out in person. But I thought that the video might give us a little bit of a look into how this is impacting our students in a positive way. So we want to thank everybody. It is great to have people here. Wow. It sounds weird, but it's just great to have people here that are engaged in what we're doing here. So thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate you all coming out on a Monday night. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, on behalf of the board, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you to our staff and students that came. We really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you very, very much. All right, now we're back to us again. All right, Dr. Forte, superintendent's comments. Are you ready? No. Listen, we're on a time clock here, Steve.
So our Lakeview roof had its final inspection today, and we should get a report this week from our architect on the progress of that job. It was almost 100% complete. There might be some very minor things they have to do. Riverview needs about 2 more weeks to tie up some loose ends on the gym and APR HVAC. Happy to report we have 0 positive cases in the district, and we have 3 people in quarantine. They different reasons. Our regional activity, our region is in the yellow, but the Northeast is now in the green. So the rest of the state is in the yellow except for the Northeast. I wanted to remind the board that right now, as of right now, we have this planned for November 14 and 28, as well as December 12, our strategic planning sessions. They would be Board of Education meetings. We would have the Board of Education meeting at 6 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., we would do our strategic planning meeting. It's been in the report. If you guys want to write it down, just so everybody knows, it's, again, November 14, 28, and December 12. The meeting time would be 6 p.m. and then the strategic planning time would be at 7 p.m. We used full school closing days for snow on January 3, February 4, and February 25, and Lakeview only on December 7. So we have 5 snow days built into the calendar. If we do not use any additional ones, we will end the year on June 21st for Riverview and Valley View and June 22nd for Lakeview. Lakeview has to make up the 1 day that they were closed. And starting March 7th, masks will be optional for all students and staff in schools and on buses. That includes visitors. And there'll be more information coming out this week for everybody on guidance that we're working on right now. And that's it for my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. Can you just clarify? I know you mentioned buses. I know there was a change to that recently. Can you just clarify for the board and the public that change?
Yes, so the CDC order that the New Jersey Department of Health and Ed through the Executive Order 251 has expired. If you read Executive Order 251, it really relates only to the CDC order. So when the CDC order expired, that language expired. As of right now, Monday night, we're planning on getting rid of the mask mandate on Monday on the buses and the schools at the same time. I will discuss this with you a little bit later, and if we can make changes to that as we go along. But for right now, it made sense to remove both at the same time on Monday the 7th.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. And before I move on to Dr. Cullis, I'm just going to state for the members of the public that are online, we're getting close to our first open public discussion section for agenda items. If you'd like to make a comment, there are 2 ways to make that comment if you're online. I'm sorry, just one. We're not taking comments on the chat like we have been in the past. We are taking comments via email. The email address is BOE meetingcomments@denville.org. That could also be found on the agenda, which is on our website at denville.org. Once again, that's BOE meetingcomments@denville.org. If you send an email, please include your name and address for the record, and that comment will be read aloud. Obviously, we do allow comments in person also, but just for the folks that are online. And we'll move on to Assistant Superintendent comments. Dr. Cullis, please.
Thank you. I just want to comment on our presentation, because it's really nice to see and to share with the community that although it feels like in the last 2 years we've been really singularly focused, that our staff has been working really hard at providing quality education as well as enriching activities. So we've really been thinking about as our strategic plan goals said, the whole child, academic learning, emotional learning, but also enrichment. So a lot has been going on, including some work with our Expo program. So on January 28th, our middle school Expo program participated in Model Congress, which they, for a few months, actually from September, they get in groups of 3 and they have an assigned country and they take on world issues and they come up with plans and suggestions that they present in front of a model Congress, or excuse me, a model United Nations at Drew University in January. And our groups won 12 awards. So they took quite a few awards home, and I just wanted to give you an idea. So they were Best Delegation and Committee on Quality Education, Best Delegation on Responsible Consumption, Best on Quality Education for the Philippines. They also, outstanding, so they came in second place on the Committee on Quality Education, outstanding on Committee on Infrastructure and Innovation, outstanding Committee on Responsible Consumption, Committee Best Position Paper, a Committee on Infrastructure and Innovation, Best Position Paper on Committee on Responsible Consumption, outstanding position paper on Infrastructure and Innovation, and the best position paper for Australia Committee on Responsible Consumption. So you can see that our students have been working incredibly hard, researching countries, really looking at the positions that they pose in the world and the issues that they have in those countries. And not only were they able to write incredible papers, they also presented them to a group and then were voted the best, and then many outstanding groups as well. So took many first and second places on that. So a lot of great things have been going on. In addition, we've had a lot of cultural things. We're just ending Black History Month. The poster and poem contest is ended today, and all of the entries will be voted on, and judges will decide who our winners are, and you'll hear from that shortly. Tomorrow starts Women in History Month. We're also in Read Across America Week, and we have a lot of activities going on across the schools. So many, many things going on. We have our kindergarten registration open. We currently have 127 students registered, but anyone who's looking to register for kindergarten for 22-23 school year can go to our website, denville.org, and pre-register. This concludes Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis. Let's move on to business administrator comments. Damaris?
The state aid numbers will be available on or about March 10th. The governmental budget address will be held March 8th. And again, the state aid is usually given 48 hours after the government address. I encourage everyone to please either make an appointment or email me with your questions if you have any, and we'll be happy to answer them. And I'm sure the Finance Committee will have an update later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Damaris. Okay, we are going to move on to our open public discussion, section number 1 of the agenda, for agenda items only. Once again, before I read the statement, I will remind people that if you are online and would like to make a comment, you could send an email to BOE meetingcomments@denville.org. That's BOE meetingcomments@denville.org. This portion of the meeting is open to any individuals for the purpose of addressing resolutions on this agenda or matters that they find important to the Board of Education, and is governed by Board Policy 0167. Prior to making a comment, members of the public are required to state their names, addresses, and the subject matter of the comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. No participant shall speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. Comments may be made by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board or district administration. Any response that is provided will be made at the end of the public comment period after all comments have been heard. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals while speaking. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded to them by the laws of New Jersey. Therefore, comments regarding specific students and employees will not be responded to by the board. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in their comments and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. All statements, questions, or inquiries shall be directed to the board president. And with that, I'm going to open our first open public comment section at 7:57 p.m.
No comments in the email.
Great, thank you. No comments are in the email queue, as well as I see no members of the public in our meeting. So therefore, I am going to close our first open public comment section at 7:57 p.m. We'll have a second comment section for anybody who's online and wishes to make a comment. You can send an email to the same email address. That's BOE meetingcomments@denville.org. And we're going to move on to our agenda. Mr. Capello, would you mind moving us through old business?
I would be happy to. If there are no objections, I would like to move items A, B, and C. A are to approve the reports from January 2022, Treasurer of School Monies and Board Secretary. B are education reports, report of student enrollment from January 2022, report of health office January 2022, HIB case VV 21-2206, HIB case VV 21-2207, HIB case LV 21-2203. The demographic study presented at our last meeting by Dr. Richard Grip. The mid-year HIB report presented by Dr. Forte at the same meeting. And C, the minutes of our organization meeting from January 6th, our work and regular session and executive session meeting also from January 6th, and finally, the regular and executive session meeting January 24th.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello and Mr. Cass. We want to table, I would ask that we table item B5.
I'm fine with that.
Mr. Cass? Mr. Cass, you okay with that?
Okay by me.
Damaris, did we do that correctly?
Yes, friendly amendment, please. Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Detasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Mrs. Wagner, would you mind moving us through personnel under new business?
Certainly, if there are no objections, I would like to move items 1 through 8. Noting new hires, resignations, leaves, vacation day cash-ins, parent-teacher conference attendees.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner and Mr. Kim. Any questions under personnel? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Detasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, and Mr. Capello, would you mind moving us through instruction and program?
I would be happy to. If there are no objections under instruction and program, I would like to move items 1 through 6. These include expenses for workshops, a list of field trips which were attached. We also have proposals from air tutors, and we are recharging the ad hoc committee to collaborate, the Committee for Responsive Practices to ensure student equity. This was a committee that we had last year as well. Also, we're approving a list of staff members to attend a virtual summer institute. And finally, approving Valley View field trips for 21-22 school year.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Mr. Cass, go ahead.
So, Mr. Anderson, I had one question. Typically, we read the charge for that in. Should we be doing that here? I know we actually would read it in. Damaris, is that something we should do, or is it okay that it's in the agenda?
Which number?
Number 4. We're recharging that committee?
It's okay that it's on the agenda, and that's how it's going to show on the minutes.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
So I just want to comment that it's very nice to see a non-virtual field trip here on the field trip list. So woohoo!
Every grade is going to do a field trip from K up. And these are the larger ones. We usually put them on the agenda off the actual list, just because they're larger ones. We want to call attention to it.
So are you saying that before the end of the school year, every grade will have had a chance to go on a school trip?
Yes, every grade is going on some type of a school trip somewhere off campus.
Thank you. That's great news.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us through policy revisions?
Glad to. I ask that the board approve 4 policy regulations, one for reading and adoption at the top, student transportation, P8600, and then 3 items for first reading. We have P2530, resource materials, P9130, public complaints and grievances, and R9130, public comments and grievances.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass and Mrs. Wagner. Any questions under policy? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Kim, would you mind moving us through finance, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Under Section D, Finance, I motion that we approve numbers 1 through 6 as a block, noting that obviously for number 1, the enclosed list of checks, the donation of $2,500 from the Denville Municipal Alliance to fund the Eric LeGrand program for Lakeview and Riverview, to accept the funding for the security grant for Alyssa's Law, which is listed there at $73,500 as well as $12,523, to accept the submission and the grant of the NJSDA and the NJDOE for the amount of $36,831, to approve the professional development workshops as listed for in section number 5A for Damaris Gorowski, and finally to accept the donation of the books listed under number 6.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim and Mr. Cass. Any questions under finance? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
No on the milk fund, yes on everything else.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us through operations, please?
Under transportation, ask the board to approve Stacy Greenhagen's Director of Transportation and School Bus Transportation Supervisor course at the 52nd Annual Conference in Atlantic City, New Jersey on March 24th. Under building, and then we also have ask the board to approve to award Jersey One the highest responsible bidder in accordance with the district's bid documentation requirements for the sale of one school bus as follows. School bus number 13, a 2007 Chevy Express 3500. Under buildings and grounds, we also have our facilities manager, Mike Chmielewski, going to Atlantic City for NJSBGA conference on March 21st through the 23rd. Item 2.2, we have a Valley View Middle School athletic field to approve a new ADA toilet room facility at a cost of $20,000. Item 2.3, that the board approve the submission acceptance of the Pathway to HVAC Replacement New System Program Grant through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program application number 67639 in the amount of $407,437.50 for the projects listed below. And the work must be completed and supporting documentation received by TRC by February 11th. So the list here for the record is Valley View Middle School cafeteria HVAC, Valley Middle School band room HVAC, and Valley View Middle School art HVAC. Item 2.4, I'm asking the board to approve the proposal from EI Associates for professional architectural and engineering services to complete the projects as listed below, paid for from Pathway 2 HVAC Replacement New System Program grant through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program and Capital Reserves. It's the same three items that I previously mentioned in 2.3.
Second.
I'm sorry, can I clarify 2.2? The cost of the project is not $20,000. That's the cost of the professional services. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass. And Mr. Kim? Good, Mr. Kim.
If I may, I'd like to again acknowledge Ms. Gorowski for sections 2.3 and 2.4. This is a direct result of the grant that she worked on, where essentially this grant will be paying for the updates or up to 75% of the updates for the HVAC system in Valley View.
Yep. Nice.
Thank you, Mrs. Gorowski. Appreciate it. Dino, do you have another question?
Well, yeah, I wanted to dig into 2.2 a little bit. Can we talk a little bit about this bathroom? Did you guys, the committee, was there any discussion about doing something prefab that would be external to the school? Is this the only option that you guys looked at, basically taking that art closet and converting it?
Don, did you want to say something, or
I don't recall a specific discussion on a prefab. You talk about an external,
Yeah, so they have,
like a downsized learning cottage. That's just the bathroom.
so, I mean, I've seen, so I did a little bit of looking after looking at the proposal and the engineering kind of preliminary, and they have things, they almost look like half a shipping container or a prefab little building you can bring in and drop in and attach either to a building or it can be standalone. I'm just wondering if we looked at that or thought about that.
No, that never came up as a alternate suggestion. We talked about porta-johns. We talked about the, putting it into the school along with all the support that's needed, the access to the, and having somebody hired, that the sports organizations have to pay to be there, et cetera. But the container, yeah. You go back a few years, I know I brought to the board, probably prior board's attention, some of the creative things they were doing with shipping containers for housing, as well as, businesses. but very innovative and seem to work okay.
So
I
here's
agree.
here's my concern. We're talking about opening up the envelope of the building, and according to what I read, we're talking about basically putting up a gypsum or a drywall and a drop ceiling to make this thing happen. So I'm asking, are we compromising the security of the building? Are we allowing people to get in? Forget the cleanliness, keeping the place, together when it's being used, when our staff isn't around. I'm wondering if there may be a way. I mean, you go to New York City, they're not great by any means, but you see these self-contained, self-cleaning bathrooms. They have them in European cities. I don't know if there's another option. I just would like to maybe have the discussion.
We don't, I don't mind asking our architect, but we already took into account the idea of the block wall rather than a gypsum wall in that room for security purposes. There's plumbing in that room, so that's a plus for us because there's already a water supply and and sewer service there. So that was the reason why we picked it. It's also pretty close to ground level. Like there won't be a lot of work outside to bring a ramp up, all the things you have to do. So, but you know what? We'll ask EI and see what they think, and I'll shoot back to you, see what you think. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, the other thing I guess the architect could consider too, if it's going to be an external building, you'd have to have heat in there for the winter months so things don't freeze up. And you'd have to connect the sewage from the external structure into the building. And I know from past experience, because I hear this in the early part of the springs, the bathrooms at our fields that have brick and mortar bathrooms, they don't turn the water on until usually early April, when there's no threat of having another, below 32 degrees, where the pipes could freeze up. So, they do have the porta johns there at those fields that they put them on. So would be another consideration if you had an external structure. But what we're doing here, there's going to be access from inside and outside to that bathroom.
There'll be access only. It won't be access from the bathroom into the building. Only from the building into the bathroom for the custodians. And a positive thing about using this building and having it having the heat and everything is that, like what Mr. Cass is saying, it will be winterized, because even though the athletics really don't use the field in the winter, I don't know if you drive by there, but they have recess out there all the time, recess and gym and all kinds of different things. Maybe not when it's totally frozen, but into December, probably now again, once it cools down a little bit, once it warms up a little bit. So, but I'll ask them to see if there's an option to do it that way.
So I'm a little less concerned about it if you're telling me the security issue's been addressed. I mean, if it's going to be block and there's not going to be a drop ceiling, somebody could get up and over. Like, just the way I read that made it seem a little sketchy to me.
So it has to be blocked with a fire stop too, because
Okay.
Obviously I don't want to get into it too much, but we want to make sure it's secure and safe and things like that.
All right. The other plan, and I don't want to monopolize, but I will. The $20,000, like, that's just a nice round number to me.
It's because we got him to come down a lot on it. It was higher, and we talked to him about it.
Okay. All right.
See what happens. It's typically 10 to 12%, but on a small project, that's on $1 million project or a $1.5 million project. On a smaller project, there's a lot of stuff they have to do, believe it or not. There's the sewer part, any kind of environmental part, and then you also have the ADA accessibility. It's not, it's so much, there's so much other stuff to do for a school compared to like your house or something.
Okay. If you're telling me you negotiated with them, I'm okay.
And just to clarify the freezing, and there's going to be like a one zone heat in that to keep it at an optimal temperature during the cold months.
Well, it's attached to the building, so it might even just have the heat from the building in there.
So like be a vent in there coming in from the something like
some
of the ductwork someplace else in the building.
I'm not sure if they plan on a separate heating unit, but we could look into that. I mean, I'll have a conversation with all of them about it.
Yeah, well, it's going to be being used in the winter when the kids out there doing recess and stuff like that.
Yeah,
some heat would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it'll be heated the way the building is heated.
Okay.
Steve, I know we talked about previously when this subject first came out. So first of all, I think it's a great idea for the school, right? In other words, school activities, I've been there for athletic events already in the fall that parents are going in the building. Obviously creates a security risk, even though it's after hours, but still a security risk and obviously an issue with kind of access to the buildings after hours. So from a athletic event or even during school hours, I'm in agreement with it. My concern is specific to organizations that use it after hours, specifically baseball, softball, soccer, maybe lacrosse, whoever uses it, because obviously it goes to the town's use after hours. What is going to be the plan for them? Because currently, if they request that field, it costs them $0. And I know the cost of facility use at school buildings is becoming exorbitant by these nonprofit groups. So just want to see what the cost is going to be.
So during the week, there will be no cost because our workers are on and they can monitor it and clean the bathroom, things like that. When the buildings aren't open, we'll have to have someone on call, which is not an exorbitant amount. It might be 2 hours where the person comes in, opens the door, checks it, and then closes it. I have to work on that with the union, but we'll keep it as low as we possibly can.
I am not in support of doing this if this is going to cost the organizations any money. We are currently costing sports organizations significantly $90 an hour on a Sunday. It's unbelievable how much it costs a sports organization, a nonprofit sports organization. All the sports organizations in town have raised their costs because of the cost to use the school buildings. Basketball, the kids can't even have practice because they're restricting the amount of times they use the building. So we would have to find a way to have a card access or maybe schedule a lock on there where it's open during certain times or give a key to an organization. I can't support having nonprofit organizations having to spend money on that. Right now, they're sending kids across the street to go to the bathroom in the woods. That's what we're currently doing. So we got to find a solution to it. The town was supposed to drop a porta potty there. They didn't do it. I'm not sure why, but I can't support something at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars that's going to cost organizations even more money that we don't necessarily have a plan for yet. I don't know how we're going to have a plan for is a custodian going to come in for an hour, then leave for 4 hours and then come in for an hour? I mean, even that alone is, you're talking, $100 on a Saturday or something like that didn't cost an organization $0 before. So we want to have organizations use our building. I can't support something that's going to cost them more money.
Let me just make sure you guys are all on the same page with this. So the numbers are higher right now because of COVID. And once the mask mandate goes away, the security fee will be gone. So the typical fee on a Sunday is $50 an hour. Saturday is $35. We've worked with the organizations, and we are charging them $50 an hour right now, which is like, say, $30 an hour for the maintenance and $20 an hour for security. So once that's over, we won't have the security anymore. We don't feel like we need it, and we could have something like an on-call custodian. It's in the contract where the people would come in and open it. I'm not in favor, and I guess I would pull this resolution if we're going to totally have some type of a self-service thing. I don't feel comfortable with that. I would want somebody to make sure it's open and somebody to make sure it's clean during the day and closed. So there will be some fee. I don't see it being a crazy amount, but it might be like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours at $35 an hour, somewhere in that range of what we charge right now. I am concerned that we're going to have another bathroom like we have in the towns with the key punch, and it's not maintained. It's part of our building, and I'm concerned about that. So I do want somebody to put their eyes on it.
Well, the
2 or 3
DPW
times
doesn't
a
even
day.
check the bathrooms in the other parts of the building. So I think the fact that our people are going to check it will be much better to begin with. I can't support it till we have a plan for it. I mean, even at $100 or $200 a day, that's not money that these organizations had budgeted for, they're going to end up not using the facilities, which is not the goal of our brand new fields, is to be restricted, which is what's happening right now.
No, I just don't have a good solution for having it totally self-service on Saturdays, like where somebody has this card swipe access and there's nobody from our building. There's no people at all working. I don't feel comfortable with having our building like that. We could look back we could bag the whole thing and go back to the Porta-John, I don't really think that's a good solution either. Maybe this other idea that Dino had might work, but I just don't want to have another bathroom facility that is kind of self-service and people aren't checking on it. I just want to make sure someone's checking on it. And there will be a cost to it. It won't be free.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, our bathrooms that are in the skin of the building, if a basketball uses it, right, they're responsible for it. So if baseball used the field, they'd be responsible for it. So if we come in on a Monday and the bathroom's trashed, then they're responsible for it. They sign that document saying they're responsible.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's a good point. But the thing is, our people are on duty during basketball. Like somebody's there.
But nobody even sees that person, Steve. That person is like a ghost in the basement. I've been there for plenty of opportunities. I will tell you that you never see a person in the building. The door's unlocked. You walk in, you use the gym, you walk out. I never see the person. Never.
The person's on duty though. Like there's somebody there. There's nobody there the other way.
I'm assuming we're going to put a camera on this. I can tell you, I'm not in support of
put
the
a
way
camera on
we've
the
got it written up
outside.
right now. The
We can put a
plan
camera
of
on the
we'll
outside,
see
yeah.
later is just not good enough for me.
Can I make a suggestion that we table this for the time being? We take this off for tonight? Don, right, Don, you made the
Mr.
motion?
Cass and Mr. Kim made the motion, so they can table if they'd like to.
I'm okay with tabling it. And getting back to the Porta-John, which we do have at most of the fields, because some of them, you got to walk pretty far to get to the bathrooms. What would happen if we got some of the some local builders and I'm sure Hub Soccer would kick in some money, build a cosmetically good-looking structure to put the Porta-John in, so it wouldn't be visible, but you can still get it in and out of there. It's something to think about.
Yeah, maybe we discuss it in committee.
It could be an agenda item for the next Operations and Finance Committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with tabling 2.2.
Friendly amendment to remove table 2.2 will be brought back to committee. Any other questions, comments?
So if I could just ask, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, either Damaris or James, I'm just curious for 2.4, if there was an amount awarded for the plans for that, or if it's just a percentage?
The amount for the professional services is about $76,000. And the reason why I did not list it here was because we got the quote late after the agenda was already prepared and it was an attachment.
I just wanted to highlight, it's a significant amount. It makes this a total grant almost $500,000. So,
And it will be
congratulations.
paid from the grant as well.
Thank you.
At least 75%.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to go to the cause committee reports, correspondence, discussion items, including board meeting highlights and other. Why don't we start with board meeting highlights?
The Riverview presentation and the grant.
Sounds good. Anybody have anything else?
I do. The presentation on the Sensory Room was really terrific. And I jotted a few notes down here. I'm sure my GPA in middle school would have been 1.50 points higher if I had something like that to go to back in the day.
1.5 or 1.5 points higher?
1.5 points higher. Good catch. Okay, the other thing, they mentioned that kids go in there for 2 minutes, so I wonder if there was a, they're in there by themselves without an instructor?
No,
There's always somebody in
There's
there.
always someone there. Yeah.
And is there a time limit? Like somebody like me would have been in there for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Every time I see it, they're in and out pretty quick.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I guess my last question was answered. Do you have an instructor? You do have an instructor in there. Was if God forbid, probably never happened, but sometimes it does. Is you'd have a lockdown, and the kid would have to stay in that room along with the instructor.
Yes, they're always accompanied by an adult.
Thank you. Again, it's just one of many things that make our schools great. It's colorful. All the devices they had in there for the kids to use, just like another playground. I mean, it looks like a lot of fun, and gets them to decompress a little bit and get back online. It's really, really good. Have we ever put that out there online? Like they got that video and everything. Just it's just good PR to have something like that out there in the public. I'm sure a lot of people don't know about it unless their kids are in the schools.
We're definitely going to be highlighting it on our QSEC monitoring, and that's usually how we get recommended to the state to go on the website. But we've been telling people, I've been telling a lot of people, and they're just shocked that we have it. They're like, oh, I wish I had that. Because I've been talking to different behaviorists in different districts, and they really wish they had it. And I think what's probably the most impactful is that the students are, as Mrs. Nochick had said, they're learning to regulate themselves, and they know what activities make them feel more activated and which ones calm them down. And I think that's just a huge benefit in life. And some of the things are just in their hands. Every single room also has a sensory, which they didn't mention, a sensory toolkit. So they have a box in every room that has hand sensory things. So there's small sensory things in their rooms beyond just the gym. So they can do the sensory work in their classroom sometimes too.
And if I ask a question, Sandy, do you have any metrics on how many kids you think on average use the rooms? I mean, and you don't have to answer this question right now, but
I mean, it's full all day. The ABA classes, certain classes have set times that they go every day. It is part of their instruction plan. But then there's just kids in and out all day, depending on, how they're feeling. It is open to all students, and all students have had a chance to go through it and learn how to use it. So I could find out some numbers for you.
I'm just curious idly, and it doesn't have to be any real exact numbers. I'm curious, more walking around numbers.
Could I add to the suggestion and highlights, maybe the World Congress and all the awards for the World Congress?
The Model UN.
Oh, Model UN.
I said Model Congress, but I meant Model UN.
I actually had a question about the Model UN. Which grade was that again?
7th and 8th.
7th and 8th grade. Thank you. Dr. Forte, I had a question about your comments. You had mentioned that those events are going to happen November 14th, 28th, and the 12th. Those are going to happen before the board meeting, right? I guess.
So the board last time likes to have a full board meeting with all the board members. So the way we planned it was around our board meetings in November and December of 2022. So what we'll do is we'll have the board meeting at 6, and then we'll go right to the strategic planning at 7.
Thank you. I think you said that, but my brain wasn't paying attention, so I apologize. I actually had some other comments, if that was okay. The Finance Committee is working hard with the administration on the budget, and so we might be really going down to the wire in terms of the deadlines and everything else. But we are working diligently to, with Dr. Forte and with Ms. Zarowski and trying to come up with a happy medium or a compromise. So just to give the rest of the board an update, if there's any questions, of course, please contact Dr. Forte or Ms. Zarowski or myself or any of the committee members with regards to that. I also was able to sit in and maybe fill in for Mr. Capello on the state New Jersey School Board's legislation committee, which I thought was a tremendous experience because their guest speaker happened to be the Senate Education Committee Chair, Vin Gopal from, I believe, Edison. And the state senator shared a lot of information of which one I wanted to talk about is Dr. Forte and his team, CUSAC team, and Dr. Cullis and Ms. Gorowski are wrapping up on their CUSAC stuff because I've been sitting in on the meeting. So I want to commend the administration on just the amount of work that they're doing. One thing that Mr. Gopal said is that they are actually looking into the redundancies of CUSAC and hopefully making it easier on the administration moving forward. But those are just a number of things that they were talking about. They talked about possibly with the increase in student enrollment, can the school boards ask for their share from the towns in terms of revenue? So there's that's one thing that they talked about. They also talked about the difficulty in hiring teachers and maybe getting rid of some requirements such as the Ed TPA requirement. One thing I did like is that the current law for remote instruction is only allowed if the school is closed for 3 straight days. I think there's maybe a reprieve, but they are looking to amend that law so it's no longer for 3 straight days that you do remote instruction. So they're actually looking into that. I also sent him an email about school buses because I know school buses can only be purchased with operating funds. And my question to him and his staff was, why can't we use reserves to purchase school buses? And can we extend school bus life from 15 years to 20 years if it has been maintained? So they seem very open and receptive to ideas to try to help save boards some funding and some revenue, because I know at times are tough. So the other thing that was brought up during this legislative meeting was that a lot of boards have a student representative as non-voting members. So I'd like to bring that up to this board and maybe the administration to see if there could be an elected school representative. And it could be on a rotating basis. It could be just like a 1-year thing or something like that, or just maybe 1 meeting a month. But I'd love to see if we can get a student representative on the board to just participate. They would be a non-voting member. They would be elected by their classmates. And there was some districts that did K-8 that only had K-8 that also had a sitting student representative. So I thought that was really interesting. And finally, I think something that really resonated with me is that I think next year there's a inclusion of there's going to be a AAPI curriculum law that's going to go into effect next year. There's going to be work on inclusion of instruction on history and contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And they're going to be working with the Commission of Asian Heritage to incorporate that. So, and a lot of discussion about mental health help and services and all that. So I want to thank Dina for letting me sit in on this one. This was really very interesting. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kim. That was really good. I know I think we've talked in the past about a student representative. And I know it's more inclined to, like you said, high school districts, or at least referred to as high school districts. So certainly open to that. I think, trying to think what committee, probably instruction and program or personnel, same committee, I think, to kind of run that through and see if we could talk to it a little bit. So.
Yeah, I would agree. And James, thank you very much for going to that meeting. I had a last minute conflict, so really appreciate you sitting in.
Any other questions, comments, anything?
So I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that, share with the board that Lakeview had their talent show over the weekend, and PTA put on a great show. There were 2 shows. They were able to hold it in person this year, as they were not able to do that last year. So the students were extremely talented, and it was great to see them again in person and be able to enjoy that. It was also live streamed, so that while each student was only allowed to have 2 guests attend in person, you could watch both shows virtually. So kudos to them and the students. And I'm sorry, I think I'm stepping on the Lakeview liaison, because I am not the Lakeview liaison, but I'm just going to take the opportunity to say that Lakeview's largest fundraiser, the Tricky Tray, is April 1st. Tickets have been distributed to parents to sell. So buy your tickets.
Thanks, Laura. And I think also since our last meeting, the Valley View had their winter instrumental concert, same thing, in person, also live stream, so well attended, and appreciate the update on that. One quick note for board meetings, because our next board meeting, I think, is March 14th, which would be after the mask mandate is lifted. Therefore, masks will be optional. So assuming, Dr. Forte, I think the building here is optional. Is that correct?
As of March 7th, it's optional.
Okay. So for our next board meeting, assuming nothing changes, mask will be optional for members of the public as well as the board. Any other good of the cause? No? Okay. If not, I'll move on with our agenda onto our second open public comment section. Once again, for those of you that are not in person, you can email comments to BOE meetingcomments@denville.org. This portion of the meeting is open to any individuals for the purpose of addressing resolutions on this agenda. Or matters that they find important to the Board of Education as governed by Board Policy 0167. Prior to making comments, members of the public are required to state their name, address, and the subject matter of the comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on the subject have been heard. Comments made by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board or district administration, and any response that is provided will be made at the end of the public comment period after all comments have been heard. The board asks that the members of the public be courteous and mindful to the rights of other individuals while speaking. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. Therefore, comments regarding specific students and employees will not be responded to by the board. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for the comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of their legal rights of those affected and identified in their comments, and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. All statements, questions, or inquiries shall be directed to the board president. And with that, I will open our second public comment section at 8:38 p.m.
No comments in the email.
No comments are in the
Just
email
one-
box.
Just one thing to note real quick.
Sure.
On the website where it has the information about how to make a comment, it does state that if your comment comes in after the open public meetings session is closed, that the superintendent will contact the person who emails.
Thank you. And once again, that email address is obviously open between meetings. So if anybody from the public is watching this recording, they can email that for to be read at the next board meeting, or obviously please come in person.
Do one more refresh. I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
No comments came in.
Okay. No comments are in the inbox. There are no members of the public in person with us. So at 8:39, I'm going to close our second open public comment section. We do have the need for a second executive session. I do want to note that there is one item that will be voted on after the second executive session. So there will be action taken after this executive session. Mr. Capello, would you mind moving us into executive session?
Sure, I'd be happy to. If there are no objections, I move to convene an executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss legal issues. Minutes of this session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello and Mr. Cass. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None? Any abstentions? None. We're in executive session at 8:40 p.m. It is 9:44 and we are out of executive session. Mr. Capello, would you mind moving us through old business for the one item?
Certainly. If there are no objections under old business, item B, education reports, I would like to move number 5, HIB case LV 21.22.03.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello, and thank you, Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
This one's a hard one, but yes.
Dr. Abunanatassan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Mrs. Wagner made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No. Any abstentions? No. We are adjourned at 9:45 PM.